Welcome to the Crush Life Podcast. My name is Joel Pilka with the Positive Life Company. Hey, y'all, we're here every week hanging out with some of the most inspiring athletes, artists, and businessmen and women from around the world. And they're here to share with you their stories.
Yay! That's amazing.
Today, we're here with Amy Dix, international best-selling author, speaker, entrepreneur, and co-founder of the Positive Life Company. How you doing, Amy?
Hey, Joel,
It's going great. I'm so glad to get to have this time with you, and for the folks out there, get to learn a little bit about you and, how you and I got to know each other and, and been on this mission and kind of go from there.
I love it. I feel like, the number one question that I always get asked for people that know me but don't know you is, how do you know Joel? So I'm glad we get to talk about that today.
People say that too. They're like, wait, you have a business partner with, they're in Florida? How do you even know this person? I'm like, well, that's a long story.
Right.
Because, essentially where it came from is, you grew up in Nebraska, right?
Grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska.
How was that?
I always say I wouldn't change my childhood for anything. I loved growing up in Nebraska. I loved the families that we grew up with. I don't know if I'll ever move back to Nebraska. I don't want to ever say never. But Florida is a pretty sweet place to live. So I think I'm staying put for a while.
No, I get you. Obviously that's where, we didn't really meet there. You and I met in Colorado, when we were living there. But Jenny, my wife, being from Nebraska, that was where the roots, so that's where it all started, and we did live there for a while. And I liked it. Lincoln, it's a small place. I lived, worked in Omaha, but it's a beautiful place. So, you guys went to high school, you and Jenny, my wife, went to high school together. Typical kind of like middle America, upbringing. What, apple pie and football games from what I saw, and my whole thing there is, it's like, because you're an entrepreneur. You're out there, you're speaking, you're on the road, you're doing a bunch of different stuff. Where did that come from? Were your parents that way, or were they entrepreneurs? Like, where did that bug come from?
Yes. Yeah, definitely on my dad's side. So, I get that from him. He started a company right out of college, a software programming company. And he started it in the basement of this house. I think it was actually the basement of maybe the bookstore. I don't even know. I should ask him the whole story there. But anyway, it was a software programming company right off of campus in this old house. And so he's really always had a business, right? So that started he had that bug immediately coming out of college. And then, I kind of watched my dad, not necessarily, I was really young at that point. And then a company bought his company.
Wow.
So that was, great for him. Yeah. But he's always still had that bug, right? And even when we lived so I was actually born in Kearney, Nebraska. And that's where he owned his company. Yeah. Little known fact that most people don't know, because I just say I grew up in Lincoln. But, and then we moved to Lincoln when I was in fourth or fifth grade. And then really that's what I consider home, is Lincoln. And in Lincoln, my parents started a company called Rhonda's Candy Shop, and my mom's name was Rhonda. And they started that. It was a gourmet candy store in the Haymarket in Lincoln, Nebraska. I grew up, that was a prime time of my life, right? I was in probably middle school around that time. And I got to witness what it was like to run a company, and not just a company, a storefront. And so I just have so many amazing memories from when they owned that store. And so I think, it's just in my dad's blood, and therefore it was always in my blood. I don't think I knew that, though, growing up, which is the interesting thing. I never said, I can't wait to grow up and be a business owner. That's not what I ever said, So I don't think I knew it. But once I got a taste of it, and I got a taste of it at a pretty young age, I think it's still in my late 20s when I started my first company. And then it was just addicting from there.
Was that something that's so cool? To have that experience, to be able to be this shop in town that people probably knew, I've been down there. It's such a cool area, the Haymarket area. Was that something that not instilled maybe by your parents, but did they talk about stuff like that? Did they push you certain ways? Did they try to get you involved, or it was kind of as parents will push their kids into sports and stuff, or did they say hey, come get involved, or was it just up to you to, be there if you wanted to?
You know what I love about my parents, and I never appreciated this growing up until I was older and really realized the impact of the decisions that they made and how they raised us and how that impacted me. But they never really pushed me or my brother to do anything, but they always encouraged us to do whatever it was that we wanted to do. And they always encouraged us to do our best. And it didn't matter what it was, right? So it could have been both of us played tennis, and, you know, that was our choice. In fact, I chose playing tennis, and this is how I met your wife, Jenny, is through tennis. So, you know, I chose to play tennis because we grew up in a country club surrounding, and all day my brother would go and he would play golf during the day, and I would go swimming.
That's awesome.
But the pool didn't open, right? But the pool didn't open as early as he played golf. So I decided that I wanted to play tennis because I saw the people that were out on the courts, like playing or during tennis lessons in the morning. And I thought, well, I can do this. And so that's what I did. Nobody pushed me, you know, and said, you must be a tennis player. You know, nobody ever did that. My parents never did that. And so that's how I really started. And then once I started, they just encouraged me to do my best and to be my best. And that kind of grew into a lifetime of being just a loyal tennis player and being in the tennis world. And that's how I met Jenny. We played tennis together in high school. And therefore, that is how I know you.
Nice.
Who knew, right?
Dude, that's funny. I mean, Jenny played a lot of tennis back then. You all did. I mean, I know she was traveling around doing whatever, and we had been together for so long before she wouldn't even touch. She was so burnt out. I mean, I know you guys played a lot of tournaments and all that stuff. I mean, we had been together 10 years, I think, before she even stepped on a tennis court with me. And, you know, she's got a couple state medals. I always found that interesting that we never played. But so from there, all right, did you go to like college in Nebraska? I mean, you're born, raised, bred, the whole thing there? Or did you leave state? Yeah.
No, I stayed in Nebraska, and I never wanted to. I wanted to go to Notre Dame or go to somewhere, like, get me out of here. That's what I felt. Not because I hated it. I just wanted to break out of this shell. And for the most part, most of my friends were staying in Nebraska and going to University of Nebraska, Lincoln. And as I traveled around, and my dad, amazing, right? Like here's just another story of the support that they gave us. Like, oh, you want to go to Notre Dame? Oh, you want to go to University of Arizona? Like, where do you want to go? We'll go visit. You make the decision. So that's what we did. And I remember traveling around, you know, my senior year, looking at colleges. And one of the things that happened was he said, but I do think you should. He never forced me to. I do think you should look at the University of Nebraska at Kearney, which is a smaller school, still part of the University of Nebraska system, but certainly not, you know, to the scale of UNL, University of Nebraska, Lincoln. And that's where my dad's legacy was. So he went to University of Nebraska, Kearney, and both of his siblings went to University of Nebraska, Kearney. So, right? So I was like, oh, okay. And I was born in Kearney, and I had family in Kearney. I was like, fine, I'll look at it, you know, begrudgingly. And went and absolutely fell in love. And I don't even know what about UNK made me fall in love with it, but I just said, I can be at home here and it can become my home, and I don't have to be in Lincoln. I can still get away. Now it's still pretty close. It's only like 2 hours. Yeah, exactly. So for those of you who don't know, we're not talking like across the state. It's only 2 hours down the road. But I still felt like I was doing my own thing, and I still felt like I was getting away. And I don't think I could have made a better decision. I fell in love, and I became so involved with university, and it holds such a special place in my heart, and has been, you know, just it's where a lot of my greatest memories.
Wow. I mean, I've been there. It's not how many people in Kearney? I mean, how many people at the school? It's a small town, right?
Yeah, it's a smaller town. Ooh, I'm probably going to get this wrong here. When I used to give tours, of the university as a diplomat. When I used to give tours, I know you think of anything that maybe somebody might be able to do on campus. I probably did it. I was like, oh, just sign me up. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh, can I do that? apply for that. Sure, let's just do it. Anyway, I think I used to say on the tour, and 8,000, and I should fact check this, but at the time, 8,000 undergrads. So not a very big school at all. Not a very big school at all. But it really allowed me to be a big fish in a small pond, if you will. And I don't know that I would have shined as much as I shined at UNK if I was in a larger setting. I still think I would have done great things and enjoyed my college life, but UNK really afforded me just the ability to really get involved and get to know people and just really, really shine, in college. And so I'm really, really grateful for that decision that I made, even though that's not what I thought I wanted to do.
That's interesting.
Through the encouragement.
No, that's it.
Yeah. Through the encouragement of my parents. That's what I chose.
Well, that's tough. I mean, a couple things. I went to a school that was about 12. And to relate to that, I mean, I went to a school that was about 10, 12,000. And like thinking about it now, it was just big enough where you actually could know a lot of people on campus. And when you went around campus, you recognized and you became part of like this little community. And you could almost make an impact somehow because enough people, if you're on a campus, 40, 50,000 people, I bet it's a lot different. Again, I didn't go to a college that big. After the fact, I always wanted to. I always thought back, oh man, like an Ivy League school, not that I had the grades for that, but one of these big schools out on the coast with those huge programs and the athletics and all that stuff. But looking back, like the nurturing type setting of like a smaller community where you said you could be like a big fish in a smaller pond is really interesting. I think there's a really cool dynamic to that. And on the flip side, you say how your parents kind of encourage you. I think about that with, our son. Granted, he's only 2, but I sometimes kind of want to push him to maybe Notre Dame or a bigger school because I didn't do that. But I think there's a lot of value in a smaller school, being able to, again, make like an impact with a smaller class and having more people know you or whatever your mission is, whatever your goal is. Wow, that's pretty good insight on that. I never really thought about that. So you're making me feel better about my college experience. Well, I mean, I don't know. The
word that you said that is so key is impact, right? Like to be able to make an impact and not that could have been done in a larger setting, but just the fact that it was done in the setting that was perfect for me at the time in my life. And, I love, maybe that will, make you think differently and when Payne, your son, gets a little older and how you want to handle that. I don't know, but.
No, that's true. The impact. Yeah. We'll see. The impact thing is key though. You're right, especially because those are still formative years. I mean, think about like how much I learned about myself when I went away to school and I just wanted to leave home. And home was great, but I was like itching to like be on my own. Right. And so, and so when I went, maybe being in that environment and being a little bit more comfortable where it's like you feel, I'm not sheltered, but protected a little bit to experiment a little bit more, business wise or get out there. I think there's a lot to that. I appreciate that you kind of enlightened me because my college experience was great. I met a lot of great friends. I could have done more like business wise probably, but I had my head in the clouds. I was playing music and doing all this other stuff. It was a great time. So
well, that's important too though. Like I remember my dad's advice when I left for college was this. He said, this is going to be the best time of your life and you are going to learn who your true friends are. Those were his 2 words of advice. And wow, as I look back, how true was that? It was one of the best times of my life. And I did meet some of my greatest friends. And in the process, when you separate yourself from those high school friends or those friends that you've grown up with your, whole childhood, you do quickly learn who your lifetime friends are going to be, because a lot of them you end up separating from. You just lose touch or whatever. It's not good or bad. It's just what happens. And so you do, you remember who those years later, you still have those high school friends or those college friends, but they're the ones that remain your lifetime friends because we've all made an effort to do that.
That's really interesting. So the school, I went to Eastern Illinois, which is about two and a half hours from where I grew up, just suburb, I grew up suburbs of Chicago. To relate to the whole high school thing is a lot of my really close high school buddies. I mean, 6, 7, actually probably more like 10 of us. We all went to the same school and we all rushed the same fraternity. And so me and my guys, like, we're super tight and we never had that break. I mean, then we became fraternity brothers and we spent 4 years in college together. I mean, those bonds are super strong, which was beautiful. And like, I used to think back, like, man, I wish I would have went away and met different people. But now that I don't live back in Chicago and everything, and I'm out of state, like, you know, you went to Florida, I'm happy that I had that extra time with them because it really made those bonds strong. And then there's the whole group of people that you met in college that are like a whole different level of friend, right? Like some of those people, I think when you meet when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you know, you didn't grow up with them and you gravitate to who you are now are some of the best relationships, you know? God, I love those. Those are great.
Yes, I love that. And it's so true. And I think of, you know, later on in life when my mom got sick, just the people, like you will always remember those friends that were there for you and reached out to you. And as I think about like those lifetime friends and those that were closest to me during a really trying time of my life, they were either from high school or from college. And for the most part, like those were my closest bonds during that time. And I can't imagine going through what I went through without them by my side.
Man, I can totally relate. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. So it's like a few of the times in your life that have changed you, right? And so first I want to ask you about coming out of school, like essentially quickly, what type of degree you got and why? And then like coming out of school, what jobs you had that led you to where you're at now and how that affected your life. And then also we'll go into, you know, I'd love to obviously hear about your mom and then how that changed your life and like on your mission in life and in business, you know, because these are pivotal points. Like you come out of school, you have this idea of what you think you want to do and then what you did and then how that changed and then also how it changed after the time with your mom. So, you know, coming in school, I know you have this crazy degree. It's crazy to me because it seems very technical and I'm, you know, more abstract, but this is like, it was like, what was it? Organizational, what was it? Industrial distribution. Who even thinks of this? I mean, you're 19 years old. What are you doing?
Right? I know. Well, you know, one of the decisions about going to Kearney, one of the decisions I made and why I made it to go to Kearney is because it's a great teaching college. So I originally had considered being a teacher. You know, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to teach. I wanted to inspire. I wanted to impact. I wanted to speak, be on stages, you know, this kind of thing. And I thought, well, maybe being a teacher could provide that avenue. So that was part of the decision to go to UNK. So during my freshman year at UNK, I don't know if I went to like I don't even remember, some discovery day or something, who knows. But I went to some sort of event and this gentleman by the name of Dr. Don Envik, who has his own legacy at University of Nebraska Kearney, got up and spoke about the industrial distribution program. And what it is, it's a technical sales and leadership kind of program for the industrial distribution industry, right? So distribution, manufacturing, a very non-sexy industry. So there's nothing really like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so glamorous and all, you know, it isn't. It's distribution, it's manufacturing. Like there's nothing sexy about it, right? So, but I just was mesmerized. I can remember sitting in this like auditorium and I was towards the back and I was sitting, and not that this matters. I just kind of remember I was sitting next to a couple of my friends who played football at the time. And when I say friends, I mean, like, I just met them the other day and we're just, you know, like, I think that they're like really good friends, but I couldn't even repeat their names anymore. But anyway, I just remember sitting next to them, like thinking I was cool to be like sitting next to the football players, you know, not really caring about what was going on. He had this talk and talked about industrial distribution. And I was like, oh, that is it, man. I can do business and I can be like this leader. Like I can be like upper management and do all that. Like it's perfect, right? It like molds my business brain and my influential, inspiring people kind of brain. So that's how I got into the degree, and I absolutely loved it. There was only at the time 13 other programs in the United States that have this degree, so it was a very specialized degree. And yes, and UNK was the largest accredited program when I went through it. Now, when I went through it, there were only 3 or 4 other females in that degree program. So I was very much a minority, which, I don't know. I didn't think it was all that bad going to class today, hey, I can hang out with them. So maybe that's why I did it. Oh, you mean I get to go to class with a bunch of dudes all day? No drama. That sounds amazing.
What great foresight though, or whatever, or just not even intuition, just knowing yourself. Like, hey, I would like these 2 things. I'm going to put them together. Good for you.
Yeah, it was like a really, this is pretty cliche, but it was pretty much of an aha moment. Like, as I think back of those moments in my life, sitting in that auditorium was certainly one of them. So that was my degree. And again, I just loved college life. I danced on the dance team. I was in a sorority. I was a diplomat. I was part of the honor society. I worked on the on-campus bookstore. I loved campus life.
No, man, that's so funny. Well, what's awesome? Something about college campuses, I'm here in Arizona and I get to go down to the college sometime to talk to the students about careers and whatnot and help them out. And whenever I get on a college campus, it's I love it. I want to go back to school just because it's I love the learning. I want to learn everything. I want to be there. And I don't know what it is. When I was younger and there, I still had a little bit of that feeling, but I didn't pay attention to it. I was distracted. But yeah, something about being on a college campus just excites me. I don't know if it's the energy or what, but I totally get you there. Something you said a while back is you had, and maybe it's because of the niche you were in, but you had multiple job offers before you left school. I mean, that sounds awesome, and then where did that lead into?
Yeah. So, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Right? It was amazing. When I kind of get my years screwed up because I graduated college early. I would have been technically a junior at the time. So I would have been in my second and a half or third year, or just starting my third year. I decided to take part of the degree is we had to do an internship. So I decided to take an internship with a company called Crescent Electric. Amazing company, just perfect fit for me. Part of what I loved about their internship program was you got to choose. It's here's all the, 150 plus locations across the United States. Where do you want to intern? And I was wait, what? I get to choose. And so at the time I chose Dallas, Texas. I was sweet, let's do this. I'm going to go to Dallas, Texas. And they're anywhere but Dallas.
What?
Because they were going through a transition at the time. They were transitioning and it wasn't a full, anyway. They were just going through a transition. So they said, we can't do Dallas. What's your second choice? And I wanted to get out of Nebraska. And a lot of people, would have chose Lincoln or Omaha and have done that, which is great, but not for me. So then my second choice was Denver, Colorado. And that's what I did. I went and I spent the summer in Denver and did my internship, and it was awesome. And I had such a great time, and I grew as a person so much, probably just in that short 3 months than I did over the past 2.5, 3 years of college, and learned so much about myself. And then basically I came back and I only had a semester left of college. We had a job fair and whatever, and I had been keeping in touch with companies throughout my time and had multiple job offers, gone on many interviews. It was great because you're just positioned to say, okay, well, what do you want? And not only what do you want, but what is right for you? That was the question. That is such a great feeling when you are put in a position, or when I was put in a position where I can say, what is not only what is right for me, instead of I have to get a job, I'll just take this one. So then I went back out to Denver, Colorado for the rest of basically to start my career with an amazing company, which was Crescent Electric. I chose to go.
Right. So you get this job, you're kicking butt at this company. And so here's my thoughts from here. So because you are corporate at this point and you're doing great things, but there's something inside of you saying, I want more, or I want to do my own thing, or, so my thought is you then started your own stuff and then started writing books because you're this author. I mean, and you're an author and you're a speaker. Where did that shift? Was that stuff you were learning at Crescent or stuff you had back inside of you that you just wanted to get out? Or like, how did that then all of a sudden transition to that? I mean, because you were there probably a good handful of years before all that transpired.
Yeah. I never really thought about it until you just kind of asked me, but I was with Crescent for 10 years. I did different positions for the company and ended up working at corporate by the time that I left. And, while I was with Crescent, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to write a book about how to be a leader or a manager in the industrial distribution world. That was one idea. The other idea was how to basically be a female manager, a great female leader in a male dominated industry, because that's where I was. And interestingly enough, I never wrote those. That's not the book that I ended up writing, but I still have my notes from when I was still with Crescent and writing, brainstorming all my ideas. So I guess it was really in me for a really long time. And I started my first company. It was an event planning company in Denver. I did it on the side. So I still worked at Crescent. At the time, I was a district operations manager. And I also was running a company, an event planning company. So, right. I can remember on my lunch breaks, leaving the branch, driving to this park, it's kind of on the edge of downtown Denver, driving to this park, parking my car, and crawling as an SUV, crawling in the back of my Mazda Tribute, no kidding. And I had a pillow and a blanket just for comfort. And so then I would lean up, I would get in the back, I would lean up against the pillow. I would position the blanket either if I was cold or just to sit on so I'm not sitting on something hard. And I would work, and I would take my laptop in the back of my car and turn on my hotspot on my phone, and I would work during lunch breaks. And that's what I did. And that's how I started that company. I literally started it in the back of my car.
That's beautiful. It's so, hustle, type of cliche. I did it in a 1-room bedroom apartment with no money I'm not making light of that, but it's just I just picture you in freezing Colorado in the back of your truck, on this computer trying to make deals happen. It's so awesome. Good for you.
I know. It was hustle. At the time I didn't even, that was before Gary Vee and all that stuff. Oh, you gotta hustle. I don't know. I didn't really think of it that way. I just knew that I wanted this company and I wanted to do it. And I tried to quit Crescent 3 different times, all for entrepreneurial adventures. And the first 2 times they wouldn't let me. And they, did some great stuff for me to stay, which was great. And I love them for everything that they've always done for me. And then, but the third time, I think they were just kind of all right. Yeah. You want to do it? Go.
You know what? Here's something. I got a question for you at that time. And I know it was a while back, but I think a lot of people maybe listening to this struggle with this. And I did and do from time to time, but being at a full-time job when you have this passion project in the back seat of your car that you're working on, but trying to stay focused during the day and put 100% effort into your day job. Were you good at separating that, or did they creep into there? That's tough. It's how do you give 100% to both avenues? It's draining. It's taxing.
Yeah. Wow. It is taxing. It is draining. And I think, you do have to make an effort. You have to make a conscious effort, not just I'm just going to do this and I'll separate it. Because when I first started it, I was complete separation. Never is it going to ever affect my job at Crescent. And I don't think it ever did affect it in a negative way. But I'm not saying that I didn't look at my phone, during the day and looked at emails that were coming in about people who needed, this or that or whatever. Now, I didn't ever take the time on company time to respond to those emails or make any phone calls. I loved working for Crescent. I loved my job. I loved I loved my boss in Denver. And I loved the company. And so for me, it's I always wanted to make both of them work. But in the event that I ever wanted to leave, I wanted to build up, in the back of my mind, I wanted to build up the event planning company so that I could leave. But I didn't want to do that, and I was really open. And I think that's the other thing when it comes to these kinds of things. Like my boss knew exactly what was going on. Mm-hmm. I told him, I said, I have an event planning company. I am doing this. It's on the side. Don't worry, and out of respect, like if you respect your employer, I think, that's a must. I just believe in being transparent and being candid as a manager, as an employee, as a person. It's important. Otherwise, you're constantly like looking behind your shoulder. And I hate that feeling, I never wanted to feel that way. So for me, that, I was lucky. Like I was able to be candid and transparent, but I understand some people have to hustle or want to hustle having a full-time and a side gig. And it does kind of muddy the waters. I mean, it's hard for it not to.
Yeah, it's difficult, and especially when your head is in the clouds sometimes, but you got all this other work to do. So you come out of there, you're hustling your buns off, and, you still have these ideas for books. This international bestseller thing, in my mind, like, so what was the first book? Like, what then finally came out of you and said, this is the first book? Because with all these book ideas, that I'm sure you've had, especially with, you're going through your career, you're learning, you're meeting people, you're networking, and you're having these great ideas. Then how did you settle on the first one, and what was it?
So I settled on it because the second time I tried to quit, I ended up taking a different position with Crescent and moving to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Oh. So because of the position, I had to move. At that time, then I sold my event planning company. So because I sold the event planning company and I was leaving Denver, now I was in Milwaukee. So now I didn't have a side business anymore. But yes, I still wanted to write a book, but it became more and more clear to me that Crescent was not going to be my forever. Yeah. And loved them. And I can't say enough great things about them because I did absolutely love working for them. And I could have, in the beginning, I saw them as my forever. But as I kind of climbed the corporate ladder, I realized that I had other things going on in my brain that I needed to tap into, like creativity and just that other, like the left side of my brain that wasn't happening, at Crescent. Everything Crescent was the right side of my brain. So as I realized that, I knew that the book in the industrial distribution industry, being a, female in a male dominated industry, like that has a little bit of a negative connotation to it. And I'm not like this, like, woman, hear me roar kind of gal, I love inspiring people as a whole, not just like women or not just men. Like that's always kind of been who I am. Like I love guys and gals all the same. And I hope the success for both of them equally. So that then became right. And then I knew that this whole like management leadership thing probably wasn't going to be like who I am. Like it wasn't going to be my identity. And so from the event planning company, we started a marketing company and originally just selling promotional products. And from the promotional products, then it really led into like this full-fledged marketing and starting a business and how do you do that and branding. And it was just a conversation that I had with my co-founder at the time, like, hey, I should write this book about branding and marketing. And then he had the idea to bring this whole like psychology component into the branding side of it. Once he said that, I was like, that is it. Like, that's it. I'm writing this book. And so it could help position my company, High Rise Promotions. And it also kind of brought the whole like left side of my brain, the creativity, and the right side, because it was still like, how do you start a business and how do you build a brand? And that's the business side. But then like the branding, the creativity and color psychology and all that other stuff, that's So it's like merged once again, like I was able to merge my brain, if that's possible. That became my first book, and it launched in I want to say January of 2015 and became an international bestseller by February. And then we were off and running from there. And finally, then I left Crescent and was full-time working to start and build up.
What was the name of the book? Did you say it?
No, the name of the book is called Brand New You, Your Must-Have Guide to a Profitable, Influential King.
Yes. That's a common theme. So it's not back in college. You have a couple things that you liked, you mash them together, boom, come out of there, get this cool job. You start finding out even what you're good at, what you're better at. You were kicking butt at Crescent, and then, wow, you sold that company off. I mean, how old were you when you did that? That's pretty cool. I mean, you were just 5 years out of Crescent, 6, 7 years out of Crescent when you, that's so cool. So you do that, you write this book, and then, like, what was the tipping point to leave Crescent finally? Like, how did that, because you tried to quit 3 times. Like, when did it finally get there?
When I started going to work every day and all I could think of was high-rise promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole maybe conversation that we were having earlier about like muddying the waters. Like, I was always able to separate that with the event planning company, but it got to a point where not that I couldn't separate the work, the actual, work that I was doing, but where I couldn't separate my thoughts. And all that was in my brain was high-rise promotions. All that was in my brain was speaking. All that was in my brain was marketing, helping people start businesses. And when it got to that point, I knew that I couldn't, it was unfair then also to Crescent. Whether they viewed it like that or not when I left, I don't know. But it truly was unfair to a great company to go to work and every single day have a different passion than what I first had when I started working for them. So that was the tipping point.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's what it gets to. And it's like, I think, again, a lot of people can relate because you kind of have to do what you have to do till you can do what you want to do. Not everybody, but a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you got to try to pay for these dreams somehow if you don't already have the cash from selling a business or having an amazing book or whatever it is,
Yeah, you just gave me an idea. Like, because I think that this is another really sticking point for people is people are afraid financially. People are afraid.
Yeah.
I was very afraid financially too. I had an amazing job and I lived a great life and a great lifestyle because of that job. And so for me, once that tipping point came, Joel, like then I made the next decision I made was that I had to have 6 months to a year of my current salary in savings before I could leave Crescent. So I had to change my lifestyle to do that because I was living the lifestyle of my paycheck, which means that not a good chunk of it is going into savings. Now, I was saving and I was fine, but I wasn't 6 months to a year of financial freedom in my savings account to live the same lifestyle that I was living then. And so that's the other bit of advice that I always give people who want to leave their job. Like, you should do it. Man, you should do it. You should take that risk. You should start that business. You can always come back to the industry that you're in now. However, if you are scared financially, then make that decision right now and figure out what do you have to put in savings in order to get a minimum of 6 months of your salary in savings.
No, that's really good advice. I mean, did you get it up to 6 months? I mean, did you finally make it there before you let go, or did you get more than that? I mean,
10 months. Yep. And then I was like, you know what? If I can't make rock and roll in 10 months.
Wow. Good for you. And so you're just like, at that point, you're like, okay, now I've cut the cord. I got to jump head first. And it's like waste no time because you don't know how much time it takes before it pops and all this stuff. That's amazing. So, okay, so you go from there, you got this book, you're out on your own, and, what type of opportunities then? Because here's the thing, I think a lot of people they want to write a book or they have an idea, they think to share, they have these, we all have these great ideas, and we say, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to be blah, 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 I'm going to be famous, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I mean, what type of opportunities came from that book? Was it what you expected or what you thought, or did like something else manifest? Like, how did that go?
So the joke of being an author is that nobody will read your book. That's like the joke among authors, right? Nobody really will read your book. And it's a true story. Unless I'm a best-selling author, like nobody's going to read your book. So the first person, of course, to read my book was my mother, and I felt so bad for her because she was reading my book, and I was like, "Mom, you don't have to. Like, it's totally not up her alley, right?" Like we talked about.
Oh, Mom.
She's like, "Well, it was a little confusing, but I'm really good at it, I was like, oh, love you, but truly, Mom, you can just tell me you read it. You really don't have to. Besides my mom, nobody's read my book.
I do have it. I think I got halfway through, to be completely honest with you. I think I got halfway through it. I have a blue Post-it note in it. It's right here. And I didn't make it all the way. I have to admit. I'm sorry.
Hey, no hard feelings. My co-founders never even read the book. And I think the book was actually dedicated.
Oh, God bless. Nice.
Right. So if he's not going to read it, I really don't expect.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not a detriment to the book. It's me. I'm looking at my shelf right now. I have, there's probably 17 books up here right now that I'm probably currently reading all at the same time, which is a personality trait that I'm working on. Instead of just finishing one and moving on, I'd probably save a little bit of time. No, I read 6 at once. And it's like whatever flavor I'm feeling that day. So I'll finish that at some point. That's my thing.
Really smart person told me one time that you should just
touche.
And I'm pretty sure that smart person was
touche. I love it. All right, so you got this book. You're a millionaire, best-selling author.
Yeah, for me, it was all about. I wanted to be a speaker, and ever since I was little, as a dancer, there's something about being on stage. And I think you get this too from being a musician, understand that feeling. And I always thought when I was a little girl and I was dancing, I always thought that stage was going to come in the form of me on it dancing. And later on in life, I realized it doesn't, my dancing career, long gone, way long gone. Not even long gone. It was probably gone before I ever quit it. So now and then I kind of realized that stage doesn't have to be me dancing. That stage is just mine, right? I just want to be on that stage. I just want to inspire and help people. And so it came in a different form. And so for me, from the beginning, that book was meant to position me so that I could speak on stages and that I could be in front of people and help people. And so that's how the book has been positioned. And that's how I'm still using it to this day.
Wow. And so that it got you essentially what you wanted out of it, or it got you started down the road of what you hoped it would, getting these speaking gigs, and now you're traveling around and you're doing this stuff. It's like, man, this is so great. You're seeing some actions, you're putting into work, and maybe it plays out the way you like. Maybe not all the way fully, but it's getting you down that road. And that's the lesson there. It's like, push it out there and take some risks, calculate a risk, because it looks like, you try to do the saving thing, and you did. You saved for 10 months before you left. That's an important lesson. I think too many people jump early, but some people have to. Maybe they're in a job that they can't stand, or they got to get out of there. They don't have the time, and it's just time to go. But if you have the luxury or, the means to make it happen, or you just say, hey, it's just me. I'm not hurting anybody but myself. I can always go back to work. So you push that out there. Now you start speaking. That is so great. So at your point there, then your mission is what? I want to be a full-time speaker. You're going into speaker and keep writing, and that's what you're thinking where you're heading.
I think that's a means right there. I don't think that's a mission. I think, my mission is the same. I think that it's been for a really long time, which is to inspire people and make an impact in people. And if I can do those two things, no matter what avenue I take in life, then for me, I feel fulfilled. I feel like I am doing what I am meant to do.
Oh, I love that. I'm just making a note here. That's really solid. And that's, I think leads perfectly into, where we should go from here is talk about how you're doing that now. I know the stuff that, went on with your mom in the last couple of years has made a huge impact of your life. Do you want to tell for those maybe that don't know a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, of course. So in April of 2016, my mom was diagnosed with glioblastoma. And for people who don't know what glioblastoma is, it is terminal brain cancer. How I explain it when I'm speaking on stage is I say it's basically, your death sentence. You've always wanted to know how you're going to die. Well, she knew. Once you get diagnosed with glioblastoma, it is likely how you're going to die. And with glioblastoma, there is 100% chance that the cancer will come back. So even if you undergo treatments and surgery, it's going to come back. I remember that day, and I was working from home that day, and I was on a client call, and my dad called. And I looked at my phone. You know, I'm on the phone. I looked at my phone, and it says Larry Dix. And I was like, this is really weird, because in the Dix family, especially between myself and my dad, like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 is reserved for business.
Really? This is great. I love it.
Yeah. So it's like, there's no personal chit chat. We're not doing it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's always been a really clear understanding, at least between myself and my dad. And really with the whole family. But, you know, I think we probably adhere to that rule more so than my mom or my brother ever would if given the opportunity. So I knew instantly, like, well, this is weird. Here's the thing, though. Larry, my dad, is a lobbyist. So one of the things that happened, and I don't know why this happens, and it's kind of become like a joke, but every time he's in session, every year the legislature is in session, he butt dials me. And like every time I answer, it's always like all this like chitter chatter. Like I can just hear like all this background noise of all like the lobbyists just standing around, you know, talking to each other. Or sometimes I can hear like his conversations with one of the senators or something. I'm like, what is going on here, Claire? Like, please, can you get your phone under control when the legislature is in session? So anyway, and it happened to be in session, and I thought, oh my gosh, here we go again. Like he just butt dialed me. So I continue with my phone call. And 5 minutes later, he calls back. And at that point, I really knew something was wrong. And I couldn't get off the phone quick enough. Like, I don't know how, like, it was that feeling where your heart is in your stomach and you're not hearing anything that the other person is saying. And you really don't even know what's going on. All you want to do is, like, end the phone call. And it seemed like forever. And I don't know how long it was before I could end the phone call. But the moment where that conversation ended or we wrapped up the conversation, it was done. And I don't remember who I was talking to. I don't remember what the purpose of the phone call. I do not remember any of that. And I called my dad. I looked at my phone and I called my dad back immediately because he left me a voicemail. And so I called him back immediately and I said, hey, Lair. And I call him Lair. By the way, I didn't call him Lair growing up. Just for
all right.
Hey, Lair. Hey, Amy. He said, it's been quite a crazy day. And I was like, why? What happened? And he goes, well, your mom has been admitted into the ER. And kind of another ongoing joke in our family is my mom is the most injured person in our family. Although she like has never played a day of sports in her life.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's like, I don't know how that happened, but she's always like tornado or tennis elbow or like always something with her. And I was like, oh, what happened now? And he said, well, she has a brain tumor. Instantly, it went from like this kind of like, haha, I think this might be funny to holy cow, this is serious. Then when we found out that it was glioblastoma, he said, okay, it's glioblastoma. And I didn't know what that was. And so he just said, you can Google it if you want, but I'm warning you, it's really grim. And I just remember being on the phone with him. I had this huge lump in my throat and I just said, okay. And I hung up the phone and with the laptop in my lap, I Googled what is glioblastoma. And you don't have to Google it for very long to really get the overview picture of what is about to transform or unfold, I should say. And so with that, I knew what my next move was. And my next move was to buy a one-way ticket home. And that's what I did. And so I packed my bags. And at the time, I didn't know if I was packing my bags for my mom's funeral, like if she was even going to make it, or if I was just, packing to go home for a while just to be with her. And so I remember I packed both. I mean, I sat and looked at my clothes, and I don't have a lot of clothes. I'm a pretty simple person, but I sat and looked at my clothes and in my closet, and I was just like, okay, if I have to go to a funeral, what the hell am I going to wear? and that's what I did. And I packed for both of those occasions, and I went home. And that really started this whole understanding of how positivity can make an impact on people's lives and how it can change people's perspectives, even in a really, really grim situation.
Wow. So you did some interesting things at that time. So you and I, thank you for sharing that. I mean, we're still on it, but, you and I connected in Denver, probably talked to and spent more time with your brother than I did you. Him and I somehow kindred spirits. Love the guy. Amazing, wonderful person. So then I notice you online and you're doing, and I see some things that are happening. And so, with your mom and whatnot, but you and I hadn't spoken in years, really. I mean, we weren't quote unquote friends at the time, but we were connected by our families.
Yeah. I should say too, like, even though I played tennis with your wife, Jenny and my brother were like, really,
they were buddies. They were totally buddies. Jenny always told me. And how close they were. And so, I've noticed, you're saying some things out and there's some things happening. So it's like, then you started what it's the pink lipstick, this lipstick therapy thing that I was following you on. I was like, all right, I know this girl. Like, what is she doing over here? Because that came about during your time back home, right?
Yeah. So the first time, lipstick therapy actually started on that first trip home. So on that first trip home, I went home and my mom was, she had surgery. They went in and they removed the brain tumor. But what happened next was something that we didn't expect, which was she didn't wake up from surgery. And it wasn't like she just didn't wake up for a few hours. It was days. And it was creeping to be a week at that point. We made a decision that, my brother also lives in Florida. We both live in Florida independently of one another. But anyway, my brother also lives in Florida. He lives in Fort Lauderdale, where we called my brother and we were like, you might have to come home. Like, we may have to make a really difficult family decision here. She's not waking up. And we weren't quite there yet, but we could see that it could get to that point. After just like day after day after day, just like going to the hospital and really just, there's nothing you can do. She was very unresponsive in the beginning. And so you would really just be in ICU with her and sit with her and talk to her. And it was heartbreaking. And it was sad. And it was a really, really grim situation. And so I remember I was probably like my third or fourth day home. And that morning I went down to get ready, if you will, in my parents' bathroom. They just remodeled their bathroom. They had this amazing light in there. And it's just like, you're just like free to kind of like stand around, because in the bathroom upstairs where my bedroom is, or where I sleep when I go there, it's like such a tiny bathroom. Like, you can't even have like the door open and the door at the same time. Like, they come up, it's like, either the drawer is going to be open and the door is going to be shut, or the drawer is going to be shut and the door is going to be open.
It's beautiful.
So anyway, so I went down and was down in their bathroom, and I opened my mom's cupboard. And not that I didn't know this about her, but I don't think I really knew this about her. The woman had like 40, 50 lipstick in her cupboard. Nice. And I thought, who the heck? Like, what kind of woman needs that many colors of lipstick? And I am like super plain Jane. So people who know me know that I'm very, very plain Jane. I might put mascara. As far as makeup goes, like, mascara is it. And that's like on a good day, like if I care to even do that. So to me, I'm just like, oh my goodness, Mom, like this is a little insane. I found like this really bright pink lipstick, like insanely bright. I decided to put it on just to make light of just a really terrible situation and bring a little humor to the world. Did that, and then I got in her car. That's the car I was driving when I would go home. So I got in her car to drive to the hospital, and before I pulled out of the driveway, I took a selfie of myself in this ridiculously bright pink lipstick. And I just said, if this bright pink lipstick will not wake her up, like, I don't know what will. And then I hashtagged it lipstick therapy. It started something that I never really expected it to start. It just kind of, I don't want to say it went viral, but it just became like this thing. Like, everyone then kind of became attached to it, like lipstick therapy, because then every day that I was home, I would choose another color and I would put it on. I would take a selfie and, and I would kind of update people that way. Where it just kind of blew up was she was still in ICU, still not woken up yet. I don't know, who on here might be listening to this, but if you've ever taken care of somebody who is dying or in this kind of situation, there's certain aspects I felt like that were a little bit more overwhelming than others. And one of those aspects was just keeping everybody informed. Like, everyone wanted to know, what's the update on Rhonda? And really, there was no update. I mean, she hadn't woken up yet. I don't have an update for you, right? But people are texting me, Facebook messaging me, all these things, which I appreciate. I don't want that to get taken the wrong way. But it was just like, how do I keep all these people updated? Her family, my dad's family, my friends, Jason's friends. Like, how do I keep everyone updated without having to answer a million text messages a day? Because really, I just wanted to stand by her. I just wanted to hold her hand. I didn't want to be texting all the time. And so I'll always remember this. One of the nurses came in, and here's another crazy story. It was Joanna. Her name's Joanna. And she also went to high school with us and now was part of like this oncology team. And crazy enough, I think she was a grade below me, but it's just weird how later on in life, like worlds collide, right? Now she's like one of my mom's, nurses or whatever on her case or whatever. She came in and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I just had lost it. And I was like, "No." And I couldn't even like speak at that point. Like I was just so choked up. And she's like, "Let's go to the waiting room." So we went to the waiting room and she kind of, never forget this. We were like sitting like knee to knee, face to face. Right. And here I am like sitting with this old classmate and we weren't like super good friends in high school, but we knew each other and she's consoling me. And I was just like, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Well, besides the obvious," I try to like laugh, but I'm bawling. And she's like, "What, you seem overwhelmed." And I said, "Yeah, I am. I don't know how to keep everybody updated." And I think that's not like what she
said. My Twitter feed's down. I don't know.
Exactly. And she was like, and so she started giving me all these great ideas, like, well, you could start a Facebook group or just use Facebook or Caring Bridge or, she started giving me all these ideas, and which I really appreciated. But I just thought to myself, man, I'm just going to do what I know how to do best, which is design a website, start a blog, have people sign up if they want updates. And then that way, when I update the blog, I can push it out to social media and or people who aren't on Facebook, they can still get updated. So that's what I did. And it became pinklipsticktherapy.com. And what happened was something I never really expected and am so grateful for. But I didn't know it at the time. So what happened was my mom's story while she was dying was less of one of this woman who was dying of cancer and became more of a story of positivity and happiness and how she not only overcame like obstacles through her life, but how she got to this point right here in her life, dying in a hospital or dying in hospice, and how she remained so positive and just so, I don't know. And like, I feel like positive doesn't even do it justice, like handle the situation. But because that became her story on Pink Lipstick Therapy, and because that became the story on all the hashtags of lipstick therapy, people started following it that we didn't even know. Thousands of people from in other countries. I joke about this when I give the keynote, but it's like the Dix family, we are not world travelers. Like we don't know anyone outside the United States. So for all these people in other countries to be following her blog and following her story was truly amazing. And it just got a lot of exposure, but it became, truly a story of positivity.
Unbelievable.
And person.
So you're doing, Pink Lipstick Therapy. How long are you hanging out, with your mom? I mean, before she wakes up, because obviously she wakes up, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So she wakes up. Yeah. So she does. I think at about a week or maybe a little over a week. My brother would come in for a few days, and that's the other thing. Like I felt so lucky that I had like this flexible job, right? Like if you want to call it a job, but like my own business, because I can't imagine having to be back in the corporate world and having to,
oh my gosh,
or not
totally,
like, and I saw that a little bit with my brother, and he did everything, and there's nothing really against working for corporate. I just felt terrible, like, because I got to go home I went home every single month. I think I looked at this the other day, and if I counted correctly, I had 24 flights in 8 months, which means I went back 12 times. So, there and back. So 12 times. I went home a lot, and I would be home from anywhere from, 3 days to a couple weeks. It just kind of depended on what I had going on. But so I came back. And I'm very grateful for that. Like, I was able to spend so much time with my mom, I feel so sad for people who lose a parent just like suddenly. Like, we had an opportunity to spend so much time with her. And even though she was not the same person after she had surgery, she had brain surgery. Anytime you have brain surgery, the chances of you being the exact same person that you were before, it's tough. So even though she wasn't the same person, she was still there. Like, Rhonda was still inside of her. And that was a beautiful thing to see come out, even during
that's unbelievable. And then I don't even know if I can speak to this, but we don't know what we don't know. Like, because maybe your mother couldn't communicate the way she used to be, but you don't know what she's thinking, maybe because she couldn't communicate you know what I mean? So it's like, you never really know. And so you do know that she was in there, and that's tough, Amy. That's a tough time.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it sounds like then you guys are rallying around, who your mom is and how she lived, and this positivity message. I can't believe this lipstick therapy is just amazing. You came out because she has these in her drawers. You're putting them on. You're supporting your mom. And you're like, I'm going to update people out to the world just because to keep my people informed. And I'm going to have some fun with it because I'm so sad. Like, I don't even know what to do. And I'm grasping at my mom, so I'm bringing her stuff with me, and I'm bonding with her in whatever way I can. So beautiful. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was, for me to like share with the world, like was easy for me. And I understand that that's not the case with everyone. And when people go through these kind of things, there's no right way or wrong way to handle these circumstances. There's just your way. And whatever way you need to handle it is okay. And I think that that's important for people to realize, because we got a lot of messages like, thanks for sharing, and you're so inspiring, and, thanks for sharing with the world and all this other stuff. And while that's great, and kind of like, well, my pleasure, you're welcome. It's like, it's okay if the next person doesn't. That's how we chose to handle it. And it's not like we made a family decision, like, hey, that's just what we kind of did. We took it one day at a time, one circumstance at a time. And we chose to share the, I hate the word journey, but I just can't think of anything better, but we just chose to share the journey. We're grateful that people may have been inspired along.
No, it's an experience, right? It is a journey. It's an experience. You're out there. And the funny thing is, people are reaching out to you, and it's a lot of times you don't want to talk about it. But in my experience, when you're in these situations, people are reaching out to you to ask because they want to try to take care of you, or they want to help, but they don't know how. And, they've had some sort of relationship with your family or you along the way. I do find it really interesting that all of a sudden this nurse who you knew, who was maybe younger than you and maybe you weren't friends with, or maybe you had let's just say you had some like experience or altercation with in the past. And next thing you know, you're toe to toe and she's consoling you, and you're thinking, wow, look how life comes around. Like, who even knows? You sit next to some kid in freshman English class or whatever it is. And next thing you know, 20 years later, you're in this type of situation. It's unbelievable. So you're going through this and you're pushing this stuff out because you're keeping people updated. And there's like not a movement, but there's something going on. And, it's this positive message. And so you're with your mom, and obviously being friends with you, I know how the story ends, but where does this take you? You're with your mom, God bless her. She passes away, but Where do you go? Because now you are on, I don't know if I want to call it a mission, but something again changed in you. But the thing is, it's a common theme for you because you're bringing these things that are inside of you, and now you're pushing it out to the world again because you still want to teach, you still want to share. So where does this take you now?
Yeah. So, you talk about like pivotal moments, and I don't know if that's the word that you used earlier, but, what were like the pivotal moments in your life? And this then became, I feel like, my next pivotal moment. And it was this. My mom, at this point, she was in hospice. And I think we were about 6 or 7 months into this whole experience. And her communication was dwindling very quickly. She was, less and less talking, more and more tired, less and less making sense, not really wanting to carry on any conversation or able to carry on any conversation. So I remember my dad telling me this on the phone, and I thought, oh my, like, this is it, man. Like, I only have like this last moment to get any kind of advice or any answers like I've ever wanted from her, even though we had these great conversations up to this point. I think when you realize the end is really, really near, then you go, oh shit, but wait, I wanted to know this, and this, So I remember talking to my dad about just like how her communication was going down, and I was flying home, in the next couple of days, and I took this little notebook piece of paper and I wrote down like all the questions that I wanted to ask her. And I folded up that little piece of paper and I put it in my pocket that day that I flew out. I flew home that day. And during that trip, then I remember during the day she was in hospice and my dad was at work during the day. So it was just me and my mom. And I pulled out this sheet of paper and I thought, okay, like this is it. I'm going to ask these questions, and I hope that she'll give me like all this beautiful insight, all this like shit, all this positivity, like she has her entire life on all these questions. And so I asked her the first question, and I don't remember what that question was, but I asked her, and the way she answered it, I knew it, like it didn't really make sense. And I just knew at this point, like this is the end. Like this is the end of my conversation. Wow. Like this is the end of communicating with my mom. Then I kind of like look at this sheet of paper, and I remember like scanning all the I don't know, probably 20 or 30 questions. I remember like scanning the questions going, this is happening. And so I chose like one more question. I thought, you know what, just one more question. And this was the question I chose. And I said, Mom, what advice do you have for people to live a positive, happy life the way that you have? And in like this really quiet, weak, and really, really meek voice, she was, and very matter of fact, she was very matter of fact at this point. Very matter of fact, she just said, I don't know. I believe you either are or you aren't. Wow. And that was probably the last full sentence that my mom ever said to me, just to me directly. I think that that's just so powerful. Like she just thought like, and that's how she lived her life. Like she just thought like, hey, you're either like, oh no, either you are a positive person, or, you're awesome person.
Oh my gosh.
But I thought that was, while it wasn't like super insightful, like, oh, genius, thanks, Mom. Like you just, cured cancer or whatever. It was insightful in the fact that she, like, that was her, right? Like, so she believed that she was born like this positive person. And she believed that that's just how she was, Jeez. I think that then became the pivotal point for me in starting what we have started now, which is the Positive Life Company, because it really made me wonder, like, is that true? Are people just positive or you're not? Like, are you either just born that way or you're not? Or can we help people even if you were not born that way? Like, can people live a more positive, happy life regardless of how you're born or regardless of your circumstances? And, in my upcoming book about my mom, you'll see, like, if you
I'll read half. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see, like, she was not dealt like a really easy hand in life. You know, she had her own, you know, really hard circumstances throughout life. And you're right. Like, when she passed away on December 10th, 2016, that was like the end of the pink lipstick therapy, right? Like, that was the end of lipstick therapy, because lipstick therapy was really her thing. Like, even though she didn't need it, it was her story. It almost became like her brand. Like, it was her story, but her story ended. Like, as an earthly person, like, her story just ended. So therefore, like, it was really hard for me for lipstick therapy to just end, because there was all these people now that were like following this. And so then it became like, well, wait, time out. Like, how can we continue this message? And I am just so happy. Like, you and I decided before she passed away, like, really, like, that we were going to start the Positive Life Company. And it was for me, and you have your story too, which, you know, we're going to get to, I'm sure, in another chat session. But for me, that was like a big piece of it. It was, okay, like, how can we continue my mom's message? And like, pink lipstick therapy ended, but the positive and influential and impactful and inspiring message doesn't have to end. And that's where like my driving force came for behind Positive.
It's so great to hear, because you and I talk about that, you know, a lot. I mean, we both have similar vibes and feelings about where we want, you know, Positive Life Co. to go. And sometimes it's difficult because there's a lot of different avenues. And then when the way you share it like that keeps message on point, because at the heart of it, if that's what it is, you know, if it's because that's what we both believe is to, you know, the inspiring, impactful. I mean, if we can bring stories out to people that they can learn from, you know, when we're learning and growing from the story with your mom, and thanks for sharing that, because it's like you say that, you know, her last words, and we're going like, either you are or you aren't. And we're sitting here thinking like, maybe that's not mind blowing or whatever, but I think it is. And especially it depends. It's going to be something different to you at every different iteration of Amy, whatever Amy 3.0, 4, whatever different time of your life. It's going to be something a little bit different, because you're going to change. And every time I think it's going to be amazing to you. I think it's going to be so enlightening, because you're going to think of it from a different point of view, and you're going to be like, God, that was amazing. But at the time, maybe you were expecting this, you know, and you know, this grand message, but I think that it is. I think it's beautiful, you know, because you're living in the moment though. The beautiful thing is I'm sitting here you're telling a story, and how present you were to try to, you know, think about like, these are some questions I want to ask. I want to spend time with my mom. I want to be present. I want to soak up this experience, even though how raw and hard it is, because it's, you know, these moments where you don't want to get distracted, because you want to just be like focusing on your mom and like spending this time together, but you also want to learn from it and grow from it and soak everything you can from her. So to be as present as it seems like you were, sure you weren't perfect about it, but, is awesome too. You know, it's just to think like, what's happening right now? Like feeling the, you know, the vibe off it. Like, this is a big deal in my life. Like, let's pay attention, you know, it's just amazing. Like, sometimes being quiet, sometimes listening, sometimes, you know, again, thank you for that. And that was a big motivation. You and I connected and said, you know, I have this thing inside me that also wants to share and help people. And so that's kind of where we're at now. We're saying, let's help people take their stories. I mean, is that where our mission has come? I mean, you've shared your mom's story and yours, and now, you know, we help other people do that is what we're thinking, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just think, you know, when I said earlier, like, whatever your choice is in that moment, there's no right or wrong, right? It's what your choice is. But I also want to say this and take it to this level, that people aren't going to learn if there's no story to share. Yeah. People aren't going to learn or grow if the story isn't shared. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like the way that I did it. It doesn't have to be like very, very public every step of the way. But everyone has a story. And I have learned that more over the last year of my life, traveling and now talking to people through the Positive Life Company who do want to share their story. Everyone has a story, and every story can make a difference.
Yeah, you're totally right. And in any way, in the ways you don't even realize. See, the thing like with the lipstick part, somebody may be listening and saying, going through a similar thing or having their own issue and being like, oh, you know what? I should attach something to this, or I should carry a notebook with me because I want to record how I'm feeling right now. Or, and I've heard stories of people doing that, like being in accidents and having somebody with them recording stuff because they don't remember the times of their lives. So it's like little bits and pieces from stuff that you've shared, that we can all kind of take into the next experience that we have. And that's where it's at, especially how else will we connect? I mean, how do you get your story out there to reach somebody that might need to hear it? And that's, I think, where you and I are coming in and saying, like, we're connecting with all these amazing people that have these awesome, crazy stories that need to be shared on whatever level it is. I mean, granted, they don't have to say, oh, look, I bragged to riches, I made it to a billionaire. Like, those are few and far between, and we all need to learn from that. But what about, I don't want to say average, but just, somebody going down the street that makes a decent living, that has a great family, and they're pushing and they're grinding and they're making it happen, and they're going through the trials and tribulations of life and what they've learned, because we're all creative. And I think those little things is like what makes it all great. It just makes it more rich, really, is what I want to say.
Yeah, it takes all kinds to make the world
It's
go round.
fun, man. I'll tell you. Well, thanks again for sharing that. I got some questions for you here, and they're kind of going to be, I don't know, a little bit all over the place. Not really, but we're just going to go through it. So right now, all right, you are working Positive Life Co. You're out there, you're traveling, you're speaking. What is really the next big project you're working on? And I mean, we're kind of I'm guessing we're doing this together, or what do you? I mean, what's the next big deal that we can expect from Amy Dix?
Yeah. So, the next thing is the book, which is 7 More Days, or at least that's the working title right now. That is the story of my mom, but not just her story. It's really on how to live. Take a look at your life and live like this insanely positive, happy life. And through that, we're going to continue to tell this story. And we're going to continue to tell the story through a documentary and a film. And also, along with that, we are with the Positive Life Company. As you know, we are helping other people to do that same thing, tell their story through documentaries, through film, so that they can reach the masses, so that they can impact and inspire the world and be a difference maker. And so that is what the next big project is.
That's the best part. And, you just got me thinking, because stories resonate for a certain reason. Somebody may listen to this and be like, oh, I can't listen to this story. It doesn't relate to me, or it's too sad, or it's too whatever. But it will resonate with somebody, whether they have had a family member with a similar glioblastoma, or maybe they're just a daughter, or maybe they're just a mom or mother, or however it comes into play. But that's the thing. You just don't even know. And everybody's story has meaning or has weight to it. So whatever you think, like, oh, well, I don't have this crazy, again, rags to riches, write a book about my life story, but you all have experiences that you've had to push through and that somebody can learn from. That's what I'm learning from the people that we talk to. And it's like the video part is key. It's like getting, a way, an affordable way for people to get their stories out, like on TV without, online without, Hollywood coming to pay you $1 million for your story, because, how can that happen for everybody? Right. So, wow. So 7 more days. When can we expect that? We're going to hold you to that. When's that coming out?
So I want to share another story with you real quick. I was just talking to another author about the same thing, and who is also authoring a book and is trying to get it done before her dad passes away. So she's going through something similar. And one of the things that I said to her was, it's okay if that doesn't happen. Like, I started writing 7 More Days before my mom passed away. And I didn't know when my mom was going to die, of course. I just knew that it was, inevitable. So one of the really hard things that I put on myself was, I'm going to finish this book. This book is going to be done. Like, she's going to see this. Like, she's going to be alive, and she's going to see that this book came out. She's going to see that her legacy is going to continue. She's going to see that she has made an impact on the world and all this other stuff. And you know what? Like, that sounded great at the time, but it didn't happen that way. But that's okay. At the time I was like, it's going to be done by the end of, 2016. And now we're sitting here at the beginning of 2018, and the book is probably 95% done. Like, we expect to have this thing launched in the first quarter of this year. So we are just, as we sit and record this in January of 2018, we expect that thing to be launched and published here in the next few months.
Oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be great. Awesome. So, okay, we got that coming down. We're going to be doing some documentaries. A couple quick questions here on just like, work and stuff like that. So quickly, we could call them rapid fire, but you may take a minute to think about it, but as quickly as you can. So what is your favorite place to work, to get work done?
Co-working space.
All right. So music on? Are you listening to music while you're working?
Ooh, music for creative time. No music for like business, finance, operation, planning time.
All right. How about, I stole this one from Tim Ferriss. I listened to some of his podcasts. Best purchase that you've made under $100 in the last year.
Oh, see, I'm such a simple person. Like I try not to make.
All right. All right, pass. How about a guilty Instagram follow? Somebody you follow.
Oh, so I just started doing Instagram a lot because I was more.
Okay, you could.
Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome. Oh, okay. We're gonna get a little deeper here. What do you like best about yourself at this point in your life?
My ability to be independent.
Okay. And what are you looking to work on a bit on right now?
Okay. One of my goals for 2018 is to, because this is where it all started, this is where the podcast all started, is to start playing.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, that would be great. I love that. I love that one. And then one word that you would like to define 2018 for you.
Oh, can I use two? Because I want to use craft.
Yes, let's do it. I appreciate you taking the time. It was really a chance to get to know, like, okay, you're doing a lot of things in life. You're writing books, but you had the corporate side. You've gone through these family lessons and experiences and, just how you came through school, what got you to where you're at, the choices you made along the way, how you were thinking that way, how you were raised. Did that play into it? You're writing, now you're speaking, and it's like, and coming through the lipstick therapy and the stuff with your mom and how all that played out really to get you where you're at now. And a lot of me asking these questions is to show people, it's like, what paths do we take? Like, how does somebody get to do what you're doing? They don't just start writing books and become, what some people do, but it's like, there's all these different paths. And it's like, we can share that with everybody so we can say, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? There's thousands of ways. I mean, so just because maybe I'm 50 years old now and the kids are out of their house and I want to go become a nurse, like I can go do that, or whatever it is, whatever your mission or your path is, or wherever you're at in life. Like these stories are to share so that we can all look and say, hey, I can relate to that. And how can I make that happen? And so I really appreciate you sharing. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you later in the year and talk about the book when it comes out and go from there. But, hey, can you tell everybody, where they can find you online?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Snapchat, and it's all under the same, handle, if you will, which is Amy Dix. And the N I have to share because I don't know, it just came to my mind. N is my middle name and is Nadine. And Nadine was my grandmother, my mom's name. After she passed away when my mom was just, a senior in high school, they said the first granddaughter to be born after her death would take on her name. So my middle name is Nadine. So Amy N. Dix.
I love it. And we'll put all that stuff. We'll put the links to your social and stuff down in the show notes. And, when you get the book up, we can get a link out to that too. And, connect with Amy online if you want. We'd love to hear from you guys. We really appreciate you listening. Again, the Crush Life podcast here with Joel Pilka, Amy Dix. We really appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.